Maya thought she was just checking numbers after hours, until she discovered her company was bleeding millions to ghost businesses, and the person she trusted most was behind it all. The clock on the wall showed 9:30 p.m., and the office building was almost empty. Most people had gone home hours ago, but Maya was still at her desk, staring at numbers that didn't make sense. She worked as a financial analyst for a big company, and tonight something was bothering her about the quarterly reports. Maya had always been good with numbers. Even as a child, she could spot patterns that others missed. Her friends used to joke that she could find mistakes in a calculator. Tonight, that skill was telling her something was very wrong. She scrolled through the spreadsheet again, checking the same columns she had been looking at for the past 2 hours. The company's expenses showed payments to vendors she had never heard of. Large payments. Some were for hundreds of thousands of dollars, going to companies with strange names that didn't seem to do any real business. Peterson Industries, she read aloud to herself. Blackstone Consulting. River Valley Services. She had tried looking up these companies online but found almost nothing. No websites, no business listings, no employee profiles. It was like they existed only on paper. Maya leaned back in her chair and rubbed her tired eyes. Maybe she was overthinking this. Maybe these were just new vendors that the purchasing department had started working with, but her gut told her otherwise. In her 5 years at the company, she had never seen payments this large go to companies with no online presence. She opened a new browser tab and started searching more carefully. Peterson Industries, nothing. Blackstone Consulting. There were dozens of companies with similar names, but none that matched the address listed in the company records. River Valley Services. Again, nothing that made sense. The more she searched, the more worried she became. These weren't just new vendors. These were ghost companies. Companies that existed only to receive money. And the amounts were staggering. In the past 6 months alone, over $2 million had been paid to these mysterious businesses. Maya felt her heart racing. She had stumbled onto something big, something that could get people in serious trouble. She needed to document everything before anyone realized what she had found. She started taking screenshots of the financial records, saving them to a secure folder on her computer. Then she printed copies of the most important documents. As the printer hummed quietly in the corner, Maya noticed how eerily quiet the office had become. The only sounds were the air conditioning and the distant hum of traffic from the street below. Just as she was gathering the printed pages, she heard footsteps in the hallway. Maya quickly minimized the spreadsheet on her screen and pretended to be working on something else. The footsteps got closer and then stopped right outside her office. "Maya, you're still here?" It was David, one of her colleagues from the accounting department. He stood in her doorway looking surprised to see her. "Oh, hey, David." "Yeah, just trying to finish up some reports," Maya said, trying to sound casual. She slid the printed documents under a stack of other papers. David walked into her office and looked around. Something about his behavior seemed off. He was usually friendly and relaxed, but tonight he seemed nervous. His eyes kept darting to her computer screen and the papers on her desk. "Working pretty late, aren't you? What's got you here so long?" David asked, moving closer to her desk. "Just the usual month-end stuff," Maya replied. "You know how it is." But David didn't seem satisfied with her answer. He lingered by her desk, clearly trying to see what she was working on. Maya felt uncomfortable under his gaze. Why was he being so nosy? "Need any help with anything?" David asked. "I could stay and help you finish up." "No, that's okay. I'm almost done anyway," Maya said quickly. She didn't want David looking at her work, especially not tonight. David nodded slowly, but he didn't leave. Instead, he sat down in the chair across from her desk. "You know, I've been meaning to ask you about some of the vendor payments in the system. Have you noticed anything unusual lately?" Maya's blood went cold. Why was David asking about vendor payments? Was this just a coincidence, or did he know something? "Unusual how?" Maya asked carefully. "Oh, just some of the amounts seem pretty high, and I don't recognize some of the company names," David said, watching her reaction closely. Maya tried to keep her expression neutral. "I haven't really been focusing on the vendor side of things. I've been more focused on the revenue reports." David studied her face for a moment longer, then suddenly smiled. "Well, I'm sure it's nothing. Sometimes these big companies just have vendors we don't know about." He stood up and walked toward the door, then paused. "You should probably head home soon, Maya. It's not safe for you to be here alone so late." There was something about the way he said it that made Maya's skin crawl. Was he being helpful, or was that a warning? After David left, Maya sat in silence for several minutes, her heart pounding. The coincidence was too strange. She discovers suspicious vendor payments, and then David shows up asking about vendor payments. Either he was involved in whatever was going on, or someone had sent him to find out what she knew. Maya realized she needed to be more careful. If people were already suspicious of her investigation, she couldn't trust anyone at the company. She needed to gather all the evidence she could, but she had to do it without anyone knowing. She spent the next hour copying more files to a secure flash drive. She made sure to cover her tracks, deleting her browser history and clearing any temporary files that might show what she had been researching. She also forwarded some of the most important documents to her personal email account, just in case something happened to her work computer. By the time Maya finally left the office, it was nearly midnight. As she walked to her car in the empty parking garage, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Every shadow seemed to hide a potential threat. Every sound made her jump. During the drive home, Maya's mind raced with questions. How long had this been going on? How many people were involved? And most importantly, what should she do next? One thing was clear. She had uncovered something that people were willing to go to great lengths to hide. The fake companies, the suspicious payments, David's strange behavior. It all pointed to a carefully planned scheme to steal money from the company. Maya knew she was in over her head, but she also knew she couldn't just pretend she hadn't seen anything. Too much money was involved, and too many people could be hurt if this continued. She had to find a way to expose the truth, even if it meant putting herself at risk. As she pulled into her driveway, Maya made a decision. Tomorrow she would continue her investigation, but she would be much more careful about who she trusted. Because tonight had taught her an important lesson. In a world full of secrets and lies, sometimes the most dangerous person is the one you think you can trust. Maya couldn't sleep that night. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw those numbers dancing in her head. $2 million, gone to companies that didn't exist. She tossed and turned until sunrise, her mind spinning with possibilities. When she finally got up, Maya made herself a strong cup of coffee and sat at her kitchen table with her laptop. She had copied some files to her personal email the night before, and now she wanted to study them more carefully, away from the office, away from David's curious eyes. She opened the first document and started tracing the money trail. What she found made her stomach drop. This wasn't just about the past 6 months. The suspicious payments went back almost 2 years. The amount started small, maybe $10,000 or $20,000 at a time. But they had grown bigger and bigger, like someone was getting bolder. Maya created a simple spreadsheet on her personal laptop, tracking every suspicious payment she could find. Peterson Industries had received over $800,000. Blackstone Consulting got $600,000. River Valley Services took $500,000. And there were other companies too. Summit Holdings, Coastal Enterprises, Mountain View Partners. All with the same pattern. No real business, no employees, no websites. Just bank accounts that swallowed company money. The more Maya dug, the more she realized how carefully this whole thing was planned. The payments were spread out over time so they wouldn't look suspicious. They were mixed in with legitimate vendor payments. Someone had been very smart about hiding this, but Maya was smarter. She had always been good at seeing patterns that others missed. And the pattern here was clear. Someone at her company was stealing money by creating fake businesses and paying them for services that never happened. Around noon, Maya decided she needed to know more about these mysterious companies. She spent hours searching business registration databases, tax records, anything she could find online. What she discovered was even more disturbing. All of the fake companies were registered to the same address, a small office building across town. Maya looked up the building on Street View. It was a shabby place with peeling paint and broken windows. Definitely not the kind of place that would house legitimate businesses worth millions of dollars. Even stranger, all the companies were registered within a few months of each other, about 2 years ago. Right around the time the suspicious payments started. This wasn't a coincidence. Someone had set up all these fake companies at once, then started using them to drain money from Maya's workplace. Maya felt sick thinking about it. Someone she worked with was a thief, someone she probably said hello to every morning, maybe even shared lunch with, was stealing huge amounts of money, and they had been doing it right under everyone's nose for 2 years. She printed out all her research and put it in a folder. This was evidence now. Evidence of a crime. But what should she do with it? Who could she trust? Maya thought about going to her supervisor, but then remembered David's strange behavior the night before. What if her supervisor was involved too? What if the whole accounting department knew about this? She couldn't risk telling the wrong person. By the time Maya got ready for work, she had made up her mind. She would keep investigating, but she would be extra careful. She wouldn't trust anyone until she knew exactly who was behind this. Walking into the office that morning felt different. Maya looked at her coworkers with new eyes. Was it Jennifer from payroll who had set up the fake companies? Was it Tom from purchasing who approved the payments? Or maybe it was someone higher up, a manager or director who had the power to hide this kind of thing. Maya tried to act normal, but it was hard. Every conversation felt fake. Every smile seemed suspicious. When David waved hello from across the office, Maya felt her heart race. Did he know that she knew? She spent the morning pretending to work on normal reports while actually trying to figure out who had access to create and approve vendor payments. The more she learned about her company's systems, the more she realized that this kind of fraud required someone with high-level access. This wasn't something a regular employee could do alone. Around lunchtime, Maya noticed something that made her blood run cold. Her computer access seemed different. Some of the financial databases she normally used were suddenly restricted. When she tried to open certain files, she got error messages saying she didn't have permission. Maya's hands started shaking. This couldn't be a coincidence. Yesterday, she could access these files just fine. Today, right after she had spent the night investigating suspicious payments, her access was cut off. Someone knew what she was doing. She tried to stay calm and think logically. Maybe it was just a system update. Maybe there was a technical problem. But deep down, Maya knew better. Someone was watching her. Someone had noticed her unusual file access from the night before and had decided to limit what she could see. The rest of the day passed in a blur of paranoia. Maya felt like everyone was looking at her strangely. When her supervisor asked her about a routine report, Maya wondered if there was a hidden meaning behind the question. When the IT guy walked past her desk, she worried he had been sent to check her computer. By 5 o'clock, Maya was exhausted from the stress. Most of her coworkers had gone home, but she lingered at her desk pretending to finish up work. She wanted to see who else stayed late. Who else might be using the empty office to do things they didn't want others to see? As the office emptied out, Maya noticed that David was still there. So was her supervisor, Linda, and Tom from purchasing. All people who would have access to the vendor payment system. All people who could potentially be involved in the fraud. Maya packed up her things and headed for the elevator. But instead of going down to the parking garage, she went up to the roof. Her building had a small outdoor area where employees sometimes ate lunch. From there, she could see the parking lot and watch who left the building. She didn't have to wait long. Around 7 p.m., she saw Linda leaving through the main entrance. But instead of going to her car, Linda walked across the street to a small coffee shop. A few minutes later, Tom joined her. They sat at a table by the window, having what looked like a serious conversation. Maya's heart pounded as she watched them. Were they just discussing work? Or were they planning something more sinister? She wished she could hear what they were saying. After about 20 minutes, Linda and Tom left the coffee shop together. They shook hands outside, then went to their separate cars. Maya waited until they were both gone before heading back downstairs. Walking to her own car, Maya felt more alone than ever. She was surrounded by people she couldn't trust, investigating a crime that someone was clearly trying to hide. Every day at work would now be like walking through a minefield. One wrong step, one careless word, and she could find herself in serious danger. But Maya knew she couldn't give up. Too much money was at stake. Too many people were being hurt by this theft. She had to find a way to expose the truth, even if it meant risking everything she had worked for. Patricia leaned in closer, and Maya could smell her expensive perfume mixed with something else, the sharp scent of fear. She leaned in. I locked the door for a reason. Before in silence, Patricia said, her words hanging in the air like a threat. You see, Maya, what you've discovered isn't just simple theft. It's much bigger than that. Much more complicated. Maya's mouth went dry. She wanted to run, but Patricia was sitting between her and the door. The office suddenly felt very small and very quiet. What do you mean bigger? Maya managed to ask. Patricia sat back in her chair, studying Maya's face like she was trying to decide something important. Those fake companies you found? They're not just for stealing money from our company. They're part of a larger network, a way to move money around without anyone noticing. Money that comes from various sources. Maya felt confused and terrified at the same time. Various sources? Let's just say that some very wealthy people need ways to make their money look clean and legal. Our company provides that service whether the other executives know it or not. Maya's head was spinning. This wasn't just about Patricia stealing money for herself. This was about money laundering. About hiding dirty money by running it through fake businesses. Maya had stumbled into something much more dangerous than simple corporate theft. Patricia, this is really serious. This could destroy the entire company. All our jobs, everyone's pensions. Patricia nodded. Yes, it could. Which is why it's so important that this information doesn't leave this room. Maya felt trapped. She was sitting in a locked office with someone who had just confessed to major crimes, someone who clearly had connections to dangerous people. But Maya also realized that Patricia seemed nervous too, maybe even scared. You don't want to be doing this, Maya said quietly. I can see it in your face. This isn't who you are. For a moment, Patricia's cold mask slipped. Maya saw something vulnerable in her eyes. You're right. This isn't who I wanted to be. But sometimes life puts you in impossible situations, Maya. Sometimes you have to make choices you never thought you'd make. What happened? How did this start? Patricia was quiet for a long moment, staring at her hands. When she finally spoke, her voice was softer. My daughter got sick 3 years ago. Cancer. The treatments weren't covered by insurance. Experimental treatments, specialists, private hospitals. I spent everything I had. Borrowed against my house, maxed out every credit card. Maya felt a stab of sympathy despite her fear. I'm sorry. I didn't know. She's fine now, thank God, but the bills, the debt was crushing me. I was about to lose my house. That's when someone approached me. Someone who knew about my situation. They offered me a way to make some extra money. Just small amounts at first, just enough to keep my head above water. Who approached you? Patricia shook her head. It doesn't matter who. What matters is that once you're in, you can't get out. They own you. Every month they tell me how much money needs to be moved through our company. I create the fake vendors, process the payments, and keep my mouth shut. Maya was starting to understand. Patricia wasn't the mastermind. She was just another victim, trapped in a situation she couldn't escape. How many people know about this? More than you'd think. Less than you'd hope. David knows some of it. He helps with the paperwork. Linda from accounting processes some of the payments. Tom from purchasing approves the vendor contracts. But none of them know the full picture. They all think they're just helping me with some minor rule bending. Maya felt sick thinking about all the people involved. People she worked with every day, people she had trusted, were all part of this scheme. What about the senior executives? The CEO? They have no idea. If they found out, they'd fire everyone involved and call the police immediately. The people I work for made it very clear that if this ever gets exposed, it won't just be my problem. It will be everyone's problem. Maya understood the threat. Patricia was telling her that if this came out, people could get hurt. Not just fired, but actually hurt. Patricia, there has to be a way out of this. We could go to the FBI together. You could testify against the people who forced you into this. Patricia laughed bitterly. Maya, you still don't understand. These aren't the kind of people you testify against. These are the kind of people who make problems disappear. Maya felt her hand shaking. She tried to stay calm, to think clearly. What are you asking me to do? I'm asking you to forget what you've learned. Delete your research, destroy your evidence, and go back to your normal job. Pretend this conversation never happened. And if I don't? Patricia's expression hardened again. Then you'll become a problem that needs to be solved. Maya stared at Patricia, trying to read her face. Was she threatening Maya directly? Or was she warning her about what other people might do? You don't want to hurt me, Maya said. I know you, Patricia. You're not a violent person. You're right, I don't want to hurt you. But I'm not the one making the decisions anymore, Maya. Once I make a phone call and tell them that someone knows about our operation, it's out of my hands. Maya felt a flash of anger. So that's it? You're going to sell me out to protect yourself? I'm trying to protect both of us, Patricia snapped. If you keep digging into this, if you go to the authorities, we're both dead. Do you understand that? Not fired, not arrested, dead. The word hung in the air between them. Maya had never been in a situation like this before. She had no idea how to handle threats from dangerous criminals. But she knew one thing for certain. She couldn't just pretend this wasn't happening. "I need time to think," Maya said. Patricia shook her head. "There's no time. I need an answer now. Are you going to drop this investigation, or am I going to have to make that phone call?" Maya's mind raced. She needed to find a way out of this office, a way to get help. But she also needed to make Patricia believe she was going to cooperate. What if I said yes? What if I agreed to forget everything? Then you go back to your normal life. You do your job. You get your paycheck. You never mention any of this again. In a few years, when my debt is paid off, maybe I can find a way out of this mess. But for now, we both just keep our heads down and stay quiet. Maya nodded slowly as if she was considering it. "And David? Linda? Tom? Do they know you're talking to me about this?" "They don't know anything about this meeting. As far as they know, you're just another employee who doesn't suspect anything." Maya realized this might be her only advantage. The other people involved in the scheme didn't know that she had discovered the truth. If she could get out of this office, she might have a chance to do something before Patricia warned them. "Okay," Maya said quietly. "I'll destroy the evidence. I'll forget what I learned." Patricia studied her face carefully. "You're not lying to me, are you, Maya? Because if you're lying, if you try to expose this, the consequences will be very serious." "I understand," Maya said. "I just want to go home and pretend this never happened." Patricia seemed to relax slightly. She reached into her purse and pulled out her phone. For a terrifying moment, Maya thought she was going to make the call anyway. Instead, Patricia showed Maya the screen. "I have a number saved in here. If you ever change your mind about staying quiet, if you ever think about going to the police or the FBI, all I have to do is send one text message." "Do you understand?" Maya nodded. "I understand." Patricia stood up and walked to the door. She unlocked it and turned back to Maya. "I'm sorry it had to be this way. I really am. You're a good person, Maya. But good people sometimes have to make compromises to survive." After Patricia left, Maya sat alone in her office for a long time, her heart still pounding. She had lied, of course. She had no intention of dropping her investigation. But she also knew that Patricia was right about one thing. This was much more dangerous than she had realized. Maya looked at her computer, then at the evidence folder on her desk. She had a choice to make. She could destroy everything and try to go back to her normal life, knowing that criminals were using her company to launder money. Or she could find a way to expose the truth, knowing that it might cost her everything. Maya made her decision. She opened her computer and started typing.